Power on.
It's TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast.
The man of tomorrow, Brian Sovryn, is here, and it is time for TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast. Always one of my favorite times, if not my favorite time of the month. Holy hell, because I get to do this show every single month. And hell, at some point, maybe we'll do some extra episodes, some little specials here and there. But there's no way I'm not doing it without none other than Robin Freebeard. Robin, man, welcome back to the show.
Ooh yeah.
Yes. I'll tell you, for the first time in a long time, it's worth a little woo yeah and a little woo, because we actually have, and we're going to open this baby up, we actually have finally something fucking legit and that says something about episode 9. I mean, we have gotten no news. Of course, Celebration is coming up. And I know there's going to be a lot going on with that. We're going to have some boots on the ground at Star Wars Celebration, actually, this year. It's in Chicago, correct?
Yes.
And so I know a friend of the show, actually an executive producer for Zomia ONE, is going to be there, and I look forward to hearing from the atmosphere that he feels. Good friend of both of ours. And anyway, we'll be keeping an eye on that. That's certainly coming. But ahead of time, we did get a leak, and I kind of get the sense that this was a genuine leak for a few reasons. And this is also, to be very clear, because a lot of people were saying on the social medias, on the Twitterverse, which I frequent a little bit these days, a lot of people were thinking, oh no, there's no way this is real. And there are elements of this. Okay, basically what we have is promo art. It looks like a poster, but it's promo art, and it's real. It's the kind of art for episode 9. It's sort of the thing that you would end up putting on like a can of Chef Boyardee, or that you'd end up tossing onto a cereal box or something like that. But it very much looks like a poster. But there are elements of it that just look so fucking outrageous that I totally understand why some people were like, no, there's no way this is real. But link is in the show notes if anyone wants to get a look at it. The image is a little fuzzy. It is low quality, but it has been confirmed that it is absolutely legit. It's not the movie poster, which is what I think a lot of people were initially thinking it was. It is promo art, though. Anyway, there's so much to break down just on this alone, but this is really, like I said, it's important, and I wanted to open up the show with it. And it's pretty, for me, honestly, it's exciting because it is the first very real hints. We've seen some photos from the set and whatever, but this is real hints of what the hell we're going to see in episode 9, including some things that a lot of people were hoping, myself included, would be in it, and we'll break down into all of that. I mean, Robin, do you want to open up? How did you feel about when you first saw this? Like, what's the first word that came to your mind when you saw this bit of art?
I like, for one, like as soon as I saw it, I had a feeling that it was legit.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
The first thought that was going through my mind was like I had heard the same before I even saw the poster. I heard the rumors that that this isn't real or anything. There was still the debate going about whether or not this was a real thing. No, I thought it was genuine from the start. You know what? And you talk about it being a piece of promotional art. I wouldn't be surprised if this was an early poster design. Yeah. I don't think this is going to be the final one.
Right.
Especially now that it's been leaked, they'll definitely change it.
Yeah,
I do think there's a possibility this could have been the episode 9 poster, because it's certainly got that very busy nature that the sequel movie posters have had in the past.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing that you bring up. In fact, this is a story I was tempted to get into this month on TIE Fighter Renegades. But, now it is official that Disney bought 20th Century Fox. 20th Century Fox. And now Rupert Murdoch, next to George Lucas, is the largest Disney shareholder in the world. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get what might have happened is this might, like you said, this might have been an episode 9 poster art originally, or it might have been the official poster. We might get like the Drew Struzan art now, because I think those might have been licensed through 20th Century Fox. Like the classic kind of artworks that the special edition had, and then the prequels would end up using and everything. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if the official poster ends up being something like that.
I mean, that would be nice. It's certainly been lacking
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like they could have hired Drew Struzan at any time they wanted in the past. So that's the only reason why I kind of maybe question whether or not that's actually going to happen, because it's not like 20th Century Fox has some sort of exclusive arrangement with Drew Struzan.
Well, I wonder. And you're right, but I mean, I wonder if the artwork that was made for the special editions and for the prequels, if somehow if there was some, I mean, I imagine Lucas would have owned that. I don't know, but just kind of a guess. I think it would behoove them to do that for the actual Episode 9 poster.
Yeah, well, the only thing that 20th Century Fox had a lockdown on was the distribution rights to the first Star Wars.
Right.
Episode 4.
Yeah. And they basically just had a very simple relationship with Lucas for the rest of the movies.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. No, fair enough. So, well, anyway, I hear you that this could have been, because it does have that theatrical poster art feel. I mean, it really, really does. I don't agree with you.
And like I said, it's like you have to admit, like, I mean, Star Wars posters in general can be kind of busy, but like the sequel trilogy posters have kind of kicked that up a notch, and this definitely reflects that. There's a lot going on here.
Sure. Yeah,
too much.
True. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of action, and there's a lot in here, and there's a lot to talk about. And I mean, but did you like it when you first saw it, or?
The thing is like, I haven't. I'll be upfront with you. I haven't liked any of the Star Wars posters from the Disney movies at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not one.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't particularly care for this one either, just for the, like I said, because it's too busy. There's too much going on. It's fun to focus on all these little elements, and I'm sure that's the kind of crowd they're trying to appeal to, is to try to generate interest by people going, ooh, what's this, and ooh, what's that. But so far as a movie posters, they're not really good posters.
Yeah, they haven't been very clever. And say what people want about the prequels. The prequels had some clever fucking posters. Especially, I mean, the absolute classic 20 years ago now was, Anakin, little Anakin on Tatooine, and the shadow of Vader, behind him on some, hovel on Tatooine.
Yeah. In fact, I still have the theatrical release version of that poster and the giant banner.
Oh yeah,
because I was working at the movie theaters at the time. I still have those.
Fuck yeah! I mean, it was brilliant. Like, I mean, that told you everything you needed to know. Of what was going to be going down for the next 9 years, frankly.
Right.
And yeah, I agree with you that the posters have not been the most impressive. I mean, myself, when I saw this, I didn't necessarily love it, but I was like, oh, that's given us something. Like, there's not a lot of mystery here, and I mean, but then, the thing is, at first you look at it like, oh, and especially the thing that stands out, I think, most instantaneously are all the red stormtroopers. And they look cool as hell. Like, they look really, really cool.
That and the Knights of Ren.
Yeah, that was the other part. And that's the part that when I mentioned things that people wanted.
Right.
Like, I wanted the Knights of Ren, and here they are. And putting them on any promotional material, I would hope. I mean, fingers crossed. I mean, think Darth Maul Episode 1, because he had so much promo material and did shit, but at least in the movie. But yeah, I hope that means that they're going to be a very big part of this. But so anyway, you see the cool factors in it, and we can talk more about those. But it's not much longer after staring at it for a few seconds. Give you about 30 seconds, and you break out into raucous laughter.
Yeah,
because there are some things here that are just like, now wait a minute, JJ. what do you got going on? Like, what's, for one, the easy one is, and it takes you do a double take every time you see it, is C-3PO holding the bowcaster and the bandolier of Chewbacca.
Right.
Which, of course, some people wonder may not be a very funny thing, because it might mean that Chewbacca dies, and C-3PO's on the revenge trail here.
Oh man, I think you would think that Lucasfilm would know better from the last time they killed Chewbacca.
in Vector Prime, right?
Yes.
And the books. Yeah.
Right. And how well that went over.
Yeah, total failure.
Yeah.
But,
So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know what would be worse to do it now is that you have such what's the guy's name? Andrew, the guy who's playing Chewbacca now.
Oh, right. Is he a Norwegian guy?
Yeah, right. But he's fantastic. He's a great guy.
Right.
Like he does great interviews. He fucking loves Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be preposterous if they offed. I mean, because when they killed him off in the New Jedi Order books back in 2001 or whatever that was, in Vector Prime, like to make it worse, the person that kills him ends up, or the reason that he died is he's saving Ben Solo. Okay.
Mm-hmm, right.
And was it Ben? The youngest of the 3 Solo kids. He ends up saving. And then the youngest Solo, I think it's Anakin Solo. I think they actually
right.
Anakin, yeah.
Right.
So anyway, but then Anakin Solo ends up dying a few books later. It's like, well, so Chewbacca died for shit. He died for nothing. So yeah, this would be foolish if that's what they're pulling. But it looks awesome. Like C-3PO looks great. Go ahead.
But at the same time, I mean, I think there's some credence to that because they definitely keep hammering on the fact that this is the end of the Skywalker saga. This is it. This is the there's definitely seems like there's some heavy finality to this movie. And you kind of get the feeling that, the death count is like the death count has already been too high, in my opinion.
Yeah.
For this trilogy. Yeah. And now it's going to go up even more. Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do? Are you going to kill Lando and still kill off, General Organa? You're going to kill off Leia as well? Like, I mean, if they're just going to off the entire original trilogy characters, I mean, I could see, giving Lando a good heroic moment. I could see there's obviously logical reasons of bringing finality to the character of Princess Leia. But Chewbacca, Wookiees live hundreds of years. Let him go. Let him ride. Like there's no need to kill him off.
But at the same time, like you kind of get the feeling that, Chewbacca was a bit of a fifth wheel in Episode 8 because Han Solo wasn't there.
Oh, he's a fifth wheel in Episode 4. They wouldn't even give him a fucking medal.
Yeah. But I mean, I just it's.
Well, actually, you're right. But you're right. Not just in Episode 8, but like even in Episode 7, and JJ like apologized for this. Chewbacca got totally snubbed in that movie.
Right.
Like he didn't get his emotional moment at the end of the film. That was a complete fail, and JJ knows that. So that's what I'm saying. Don't off him. Like don't do it twice, JJ. Don't fuck this character over even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess we'll have to see.
Right. And like I just got to say, like C-3PO holding that bowcaster. I mean, like it's like anything other than happens if when he fires that thing, and if he doesn't fly into a million pieces when he tries to shoot it, then I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not his feet don't have magnets as far as I know.
Right. I mean, the recoil on that thing should just blow his arm clean. His brain. Well, I guess he doesn't have the red arm anymore, but that should just blow that thing clear off.
Yeah. Well, that's something to bring up is that you can very clearly see that C-3PO does not have a red arm in this. So, which I mean, we know the red arm got taken care of anyway already. But yeah, wow. So I mean, why don't we let's talk about the other part that just makes you go, "What the fuck?" and just laugh. To the side of Finn, you see Finn there, which is great. Finn looks like he's ready for action. Just off to the side, almost to make fun of Finn. There's this weird ass looking alien that we've never seen before in Star Wars. It looks like a cross between Jar Jar and like the Dilophosaurus from Jurassic Park, and that ended up spraying Dennis Nedry in the face, and he's just got this look of like
so like when you see this character, like a sound comes to mind. Okay, so like, and this is it.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally getting like a Goonies feel, right?
Right.
Hey, you guys.
Right.
This is unbelievable. I mean, the look on his face, he's just slack-jawed, you know?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, and in fact, somehow, if I can, I'll put the artwork maybe in the show notes, because I have a great high-def picture of this. He looks exactly, I mean, pound for pound, other than color, he looks exactly like one of the aliens from the classic movie from the 80s called Explorers, about like these kids that build a spaceship and like literally go into space. And he looks just like it. And I'm like, wow, JJ, you're copying right and left.
Right. They just changed the color.
Yeah. I mean, it looks exactly like it. And I'm like, wow, that's so, I mean, which, you know, I mean, I'll say this, and I say this only half in jest. You know, if you want to make Explorers part of the Star Wars universe, fuck, by all means, E.T. is, you know, because E.T. is in Phantom Menace. Yeah, please, let's have Explorers be part of, I mean, that's like the closest movie I can think of to E.T. Hell, I like it better than E.T. So anyway, but the look on his face is just hilarious. and that's where I was like, yeah, you probably wouldn't put that on a movie poster. You know, I mean, it's better than the Porgs, but it's like, wow, okay. So classic. Anyway, the other those are really the only like really funny things. Now Chewbacca is also on this artwork, so maybe he's going to be okay. I don't know, but he does have the bandolier that it appears C-3PO actually has on. But next
we have a character that a lot of people are speculating is Lando's daughter.
Yep, that's the theory going, and which we don't know, but looks interesting. Right. And she's wearing a cape, so it does make you wonder. You know, that's a very Lando thing. Then underneath her is a Power Ranger. And
I was going to say it was a female member of Daft Punk.
Yeah, I'll take that. Fuck. Did you hear the soundtrack they did for Tron Legacy?
Right?
Yeah, so great. So anyway, I mean,
maybe that's how they got the character, because now they have like some sort of license, like rights to the Daft Punk, helmets.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take either. Like, because I mean, Disney owns Power Rangers anyway, so what the fuck? But yeah, apparently her name is Zori, and we don't know anything about her. I don't know if it's Kerry Russell's character. We don't know what it is. But that's there. So, I mean, it looks cool. Like Zori looks cool. The character, it's not like, I mean, we jest, but it does look pretty cool. You got BB-8 on there, who BB-8 seems to have a sidekick as well. We do get Kylo Ren, of course, is a very big part of it, as is Rey. As you mentioned earlier, Rob, I mean, the Knights of Ren are there, and they're looking pretty badass. Of course, we kind of saw them in episode 7. But I mean, any thoughts on the Knights of Ren here?
No, they've been teasing that long enough. I kind of had a feeling they were definitely going to be a part of this movie, and some way. I'm like, they couldn't. Like, if they didn't do it, I think there would be some sort of backlash. You know? And then maybe not on the the level of episode 8 backlash, but
right.
I even get the feeling that JJ wanted the Knights of Ren to be part of the entire sequel trilogy, but Rian Johnson just had his own ideas. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think they look good, and I mean, I'm happy that they're going to be there. I agree with you completely on the backlash. That's exactly what would have happened. We get some stormtroopers in white, and next to them are some. There is a new TIE fighter of some type there.
Yeah, it looks like the kind of the First Order, like TIE Interceptor.
Yeah, it has wedge-shaped singular solar arrays on the side there.
Which we have seen a First Order TIE Interceptor in Resistance, but it's red.
Right.
And I almost get the impression maybe like that was just that particular TIE fighter pilot's, like maybe there was an old interceptor that he had like refurbished and took on. Yeah, so it's kind of nice to see that they're continuing to update the TIE fighter designs, because here at TIE Fighter Renegades, we're all about TIE fighters.
Fuck yes. Yeah. I mean, and I never got, I mean, in the expanded universe, I mean, they had TIE tanks. It wasn't even just like things in space.
Yep.
I never got
droids.
Yeah, I was like, no, bring them all on. Like, let's make a tie out of everything. It's fine with me. So, because then I was always hoping for a TIE Fighter sequel, and then we could fly all those things or drive.
Right.
But anyway, and underneath that is certainly, I think, next to Kylo and Rey, the most prominent thing on there. I mean, at the top, we do see a Y-wing, an X-wing, and an A-wing. That's and the Falcons on it. We'll mention that.
Yeah,
but
that
then,
Y-wing is kind of sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean,
yeah, pretty hard.
The Resistance is still using Clone Wars era tech. Yikes.
Yeah, well, I thought that was, JJ has, it's like, oh, it's yeah, they're X-wings, but they're not T-65s, they're T-75s,
Right, yeah. Well, even the A-wings for Episode 8 weren't like the same A-wings from Return of the Jedi. They
were longer. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had like a longer front end. And
right.
Yeah, so the Y-wing's interesting. But right, that is kind of weird because the Y-wing has always been sort of accepted as, like, in Star Wars lore in general, as like, well, it's not like perfect,
Right.
And,
I mean, they were already hand-me-downs by the time of,
right.
the Empire.
Right. Yeah, no, that's true. And because originally in the Republic, in the old the Republic, not the old Republic, in the Republic, right, they had like a whole sheathing around them where they looked very different. Yeah.
Yeah.
They stripped them in Rebels.
The ensign fuselage kind of had, those coverings and everything.
Right. Yeah. Which those are really cool episodes of Rebels when they were stealing the Y-wings.
Right. Yeah. That was, I was going to bring that up. That's where we found out that, where they do get the hand-me-downs. I mean, right. Yeah. I mean, then it makes sense that, that's why they were, stripped down, is because they were literally being, scrapped.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but then the most prominent is just this cadre of red stormtroopers, and they look awesome. They really look badass.
It's interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's interesting how, they're almost like, they're a callback to clone troopers, because it goes back to the first phase clone trooper helmet design where they have the split down the middle.
Oh yeah. Almost an ARC trooper kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. I could see that. Yeah. I mean, they don't really look like Imperial Royal Guards, but that's definitely the flavor I think that you're getting, because the Imperial Royal Guards also had a Mandalorian design to their, overall, to their helmets and so on. But yeah, I don't know what they're going to make of these. I mean, if I ended up, my first thought, and this is just my mind going to flights of fancy, if we ended up with a bunch of stormtroopers wielding red lightsabers and going to town, I would not argue. Like, I mean, give me a shit ton of lightsabers, because I haven't gotten enough in this sequel trilogy, quite frankly. But maybe that'll just be for the Knights of Ren. We'll see.
Well, I don't know if this is a rumor or not, but we do have a name for these new stormtroopers, and they're
what's that?
The 709th Red Fury stormtroopers.
Red Fury. Okay,
so I guess, and some people are kind of like saying they're basically Kylo Ren's equivalent of the 501st.
Oh,
Darth Vader.
Okay. Yeah, all right. I mean, if that's what it is, that's fine. But they look awesome. Like, I mean, I dig it. I'll take a set of that armor, and I mean, that's really all I can say on that. But the one we did mention that we didn't mention, that's also on this poster, is Poe. Poe Dameron is on there. Oscar Isaac is looking very Han Solo, frankly. And it's almost a little annoying, I think, how much he looks like Han Solo in this, or the vibe, I guess, that he's giving off here. What do you think about Poe's look?
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been trying to pull that off since Episode 7. So, I mean, It's not really a surprise. But, yeah, I get what you're saying. If
you tossed a vest on him, I mean, I don't think
I just kind of wish they would the character would have been just less derivative from the start, is all I would say,
Yeah, but you're right. That was the intention. In fact, originally the line in Episode 7, where Han Solo says, "Hey, I like this guy," wasn't meant for Finn. It was originally meant to be said to Poe.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, definitely this carrying of the torch of that, roguish character is a thing. And I think this is really putting it like right in our face in a very real way. I mean, interesting that he's not in a flight suit. So I don't know, I don't know what that means.
He did get demoted.
That's a good point. Yeah. So, well, we'll see. But anyway, any other, I mean, Rey looks great. I don't know. There's a whole lot to say about her. I mean, it's very expected. She's wearing all white, which, okay. I mean, any other thoughts on this?
No, not really. We see the Falcon. There's a new droid sitting next to BB-8. So some people have said that they find it annoying. I don't know how you can find a poorly, rendered image that's very blurry annoying, but okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just happy to finally have fucking something, that says something, right, about episode 9.
Right.
And even before Celebration, even though I'm pretty sure, I mean, it would be, honestly, I think you want to talk about a riot on your hands. I think there'd be a riot if there wasn't an episode 9 trailer at Celebration.
Oh, no, there's absolutely we're going to get a flood of information. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I can say with this, without, knowledgeable fact, it was some certainty that the intention was always to release this stuff at Celebration.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. As much as maybe I wished it was a little bit different, but no, I think you're spot on.
I mean, it's the same thing. Similar thing happened with episode 7. We did get a teaser.
Well, anyway,
ahead of the Celebration for episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
But like the real full official trailer for episode 7, where Han Solo says "Chewie, you're home," that came out at Celebration.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. No, you're right about that. Yeah, and of course, I mean, everybody remembers the trailer reveal of episode 8, and that was massive, and it was a very well done trailer. The movie, on the other hand, is very much up to debate. But we will, we're going to find out the reality around all of that, this year, come December, which is coming up fast. So anyway, do you want to move on to another story?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and, we're actually going to get into, because season 1 of Star Wars Resistance, which, we're going to get into a review of the last 3 episodes of that for the season. We'll give kind of a season 1 overview as well. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about the comic books. I mean, basically, there's not a whole lot to say. Like, I don't feel that the main Star Wars title, which is up to issue 63 now, I think, has not really shifted gears. We have been very critical of that for some time. That has not shifted gears.
I mean, they did just conclude a storyline.
Yeah.
But the next storyline that they've gone to is really just dealing with stuff that they've dealt with in the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, you're not missing much.
No, you're not. Then also, Dr. Aphra has also not shifted gears yet to like where that used to be must-read content, and now it's
the most recent issue was a little bit better, but they're still on that storyline with 000 and Aphra, who I've said it before, but I'm kind of over it. But I did kind of feel like there was a little bit more character development in the last issue, so I'll give a little bit of credit where it's due.
Sure. I think next month we're probably, while we're going to be talking a whole ton about what was announced at Celebration, I'm sure we'll get into the 2 Han Solo series that have ended. There's stuff to talk about as far as that goes, but we'll save those for then. The ones I really want to talk about, and also the Darth Vader Dark Visions series is running now. That's 2 issues deep. I've enjoyed it so far. But the ones I really want to talk about are these Age of comics that have been coming out. These nice one-shots where we've been getting like 4 or 5 of them a month. I'm amazed at how frequently they're coming out. I've been loving these. Like every single one, just about every one that they've done, I've really, really liked it. And particularly the Count Dooku and the Padme comics. Really, the Anakin one was good too, but they all really stood out for me.
The recent Grievous one was great too, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, you got to see what Grievous looks like, what he originally looked like, which was really cool.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they have had that out there, pictures of his race before, but it was good character, backstory on him, and just a good story. I mean, it's really kind of strange that these are turning out to be so good because, Marvel has shown they're not really good when it comes to Star Wars one-shots.
Right. Oh, yeah, historically, like what they did with DJ, what they did with even the Battle of Crate wasn't that great. I mean, there's been a lot of duds. Or the C-3PO one with his arm,
Oh, that was terrible.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
great
funny
animated
because
series, but that's about it. Yeah.
it's funny you mentioned the DJ comic because I was at a comic book store a couple weeks ago, and like they had like all the DJ comics with like the quote unquote rare alternate covers, and they were all like $2 a piece.
Yeah, cheaper than the cover price.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. No, I can only imagine. Yeah, so they haven't been, yeah, right. Historically, they hadn't done that well, but these have been, and in fact, even I really enjoy at the end of each of these comics, they have put like an essay about the character that the comic concentrates on, and kind of like how those characters have evolved, say, in the popular consciousness. And those are even incredible to read. Like they're really, really well done. So I loved it a lot. The Count Dooku one especially, I thought we got a lot of that character in the Clone Wars, you know, but you just got a lot of class from him, and you felt like you were really reading. In fact, it kind of hints at the idea, and the end, essay, I guess, at the end of the comic book was hinting at the idea. What if Obi-Wan said, no, okay, Count Dooku, I'll join you. And what if Dooku was really trying to take down Sidious? And they hinted at that. And the comic didn't exactly hint at least I didn't feel that it did. But other than he was like, it seemed like Dooku really was trying to create his own Jedi Order to solve things. But I think it opened up some doors for like a lot of complexities into the character of Count Dooku. I was amazed at that one. What did you think of the Dooku comic?
I liked it for all the same reasons that you did. There was one thing that got brought up in the comic that for some reason I thought had already been established canon, but I guess not. And they seem to, say in this issue that Count Dooku left the Jedi Order before Qui-Gon died. Whereas I've always heard that that he left after Qui-Gon died, and because Qui-Gon died. Yeah, and I know, I guess we're supposed to be getting an exclusive audiobook that kind of deals with some of this.
Oh yeah, they just announced that on the Star Wars show.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. That, they kind of, they bring that up in the comic, like, oh, okay, that's they changed that from the old, and I guess that was just Legends, timeline canon. Whereas, the new canon, they're completely changing the Dooku's motivations for leaving the Jedi Order, which I think is cool, and I want to hear more about it, and we're going to get it. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's coming out actually next month. That's coming out right in April. I was amazed that they only announced it a month before release. Usually Star Wars, this is an audiobook only. Usually, though, they announce books way ahead of time. So I was stunned by that. What did you think about the Padme comic? How did you feel about that?
I liked the Padme comic. I still liked some of the other ones a little bit more. Mm-hmm. It was okay. Like, it was better than the Princess Leia, series comic they did a while back.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
which I thought was like, here again, it was just okay. So this was a little bit better than that.
Sure. Yeah, I was the thing I want to comment on with that. So I read. I know you didn't get the chance yet to read this, Rob, but I read Queen Shadow, which was the book that came out just this month by E.K. Johnston, which she did. She also did the Ahsoka book, which the Ahsoka book was good, wasn't great. Queen Shadow was dynamite. I thought this was. I needed a good Star Wars book again. And I've needed one for a while, and this delivered. And it really, because there wasn't like a whole shit ton of action. I don't give a shit about politics. I'll just say this outright. I'm an anarchist, but like, it was cool to get that political side. And there was a ton about the handmaidens in it. Like it seemed like they were really concentrating them on trying to make them more characters than I think is necessary, unless they have some kind of plans for it. And I noticed that in the Padme comic, the handmaidens were really center stage as well. Yeah,
so I was going to say, it could have easily just been Padme's, handmaidens comic than just Padme.
Yeah, I think,
and that was interesting. I did notice that.
Yeah, I think we're going to get and I totally recommend Queen Shadow for anyone that wants to read that. I think we're going to get something special coming up with the handmaidens. I'm just going to put that out there. I forget which one Keira Knightley actually played, like, because she was in episode 1. I'm sure she doesn't put that on her resume, but she was one of the handmaidens, and I don't remember if she was like the big deal one that they're making now, because one of them in the book Queen Shadow is a huge deal, and I think it might be one of the same ones that stuck with her during the moments of the Padme comic book. But another enjoyable comic book, even though I get tired of the message that, like, yeah, there's a lot of bad politicians, but maybe there's a couple good ones. And it's like, no, there's not. But okay.
I do think that one of these handmaidens was one of the ones that got killed when that they did that assassination attempt in beginning of episode 2.
Oh, was it Corbet or whoever?
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah.
I do think, this is like, because she looks very much like that actress.
Yeah, I could see that. I don't know, but in any case, I've enjoyed all of the Padme content so far, and the comic book didn't disappoint either. I guess the other couple that had come out we mentioned the Grievous one, which was really well done. It had a moral story to it that was really cool.
Yeah. I honestly, I'd say this is probably one of my favorite ones, other than the Qui-Gon one. It's not as good as the Qui-Gon one. That's still my favorite. Yeah, but yeah, the Dooku and the Grievous ones, they're a close second.
Yeah. And the Anakin Skywalker one as well, I thought was very well done. An interesting story. Where like Obi-Wan and General Yularen, they're wanting to, I mean, it reminded me of Demolition Man. Like, well, we got heat signatures down there. Let's get down there and take them out or something. And, and then there's the suggestion of restraint. And yeah, that was another very great, good little adventure story, and gave it nice looks into Anakin as a character once again.
It's interesting that it's only after the prequels have come out that we seem to get a lot of content in the comics, and especially in the Clone Wars, where like we're really presented with that question that we were presented with before the prequels came out. And this is, how did this great guy Anakin Skywalker turn it into Darth Vader? Right. And I really kind of feel like that issue kind of like shined a light on it. It's like, it really is like a guy who has his heart in the right place. Yeah. How did this guy become Darth Vader?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, like that Dark Visions comic that I was mentioning, of Darth Vader. And again, it's only 2 issues deep, but in just kind of in one of the messages within it so far has really been that like Darth Vader's like defender of the Empire, and he's seen as a heroic character by like the Empire. I mean, the Imperials, like the officers, are afraid of him, or some of them are anyway. A lot of them are, but overall, like his propaganda in the Empire is that he's Superman. He's saving the day, and that's a very interesting. Go ahead.
It was like we were talking about before with like, the 501st, Legion is practically his own personal cult.
Yeah, right. I mean, but that's the thing, is that like you can, with Vader, looking at him in that way, and even if Anakin just slightly believes that, like you can see more of Anakin Skywalker there, or like how they could be, one can become the other. Because I think Anakin saw himself in that light as well, just with a different government, of course. But anyway, yeah, so the comics, the main series have been not so exciting, but there's some great shit coming out. Like these Age of comics are tremendous. I'm very pleased that they're doing this.
Yeah, we're supposed to be getting another Age. Are we getting the Age of Rebellion?
Age of Rebellion or Age of Empire, one of the other. Yeah. We're getting Leia comics. We're getting all kinds of stuff.
Right. So I'm if this is the kind of quality they're going to put out, I'm certainly looking forward to them applying that to different eras of Star Wars. Absolutely.
No, I agree. So, all right. Well, why don't we go ahead and let's break into, did you have anything else you want to add to the comic books, Ron?
No, I think we covered most. Like I said, we'll talk about the Han Solo stuff later. I think Imperial Cadet just wrapped up.
Yes.
And
so did the adaptation.
Yeah, adaptation, which, yeah.
Yeah. That's all we got. Yeah. But we'll talk about it next month.
Right.
So
or we won't.
or we'll be like, well, we could talk about it, but maybe it's better that we don't. And Disney will sell more copies if we don't talk about it. But anyway. Let's talk about the other bit of content that's out there for Star Wars. If you need some new historical documents, shall we say, of what's happening in the galaxy far, far away, and that is Star Wars Resistance, which has just wrapped up its first season. We do know we're getting a second season, and spoiler alerts. I'll put that right out there because not that we can exactly spoil anything, but because we, at the end of this. Of the last 3 episodes, and the 3 episodes we're going to be discussing are Descent, No Escape, Part 1 and 2. So that's 3 total episodes. But at the end of all this, we don't know where the fuck Resistance is going to be. We know we're not on that planet, anymore.
And I did call that, by the way.
Yeah. They're going elsewhere, and we thought they were even going to go to Dakar.
Right. Which I knew they're like, as soon as that Kaz, sent him the coordinates to Dakar, I said they're not going to end up there because we know everybody who was at Dakar. We saw it, both at the end of episode 7 and the beginning of 8. There was no room for the Resistance crew to be there.
Well, and if they did go there, they'd just find like the biggest First Order fleet out there, ready to kick their ass. So that would have been, because Star Wars Resistance did end up going right to the second of The Force Awakens. We get General Organa or General Leia for a minute there, saying, "Hey, come to Dakar. Sorry, we can't send any ships to help you. We got to do this thing." And it does kiss right up to that. So now Resistance, which I don't know when season 2 is supposed to start, but Resistance is going to take place really between 8 and 9 now, which we knew was going to be coming anyway. But how did you feel about, I don't know if there's a whole lot to say about Descent. A lot of what we were saying beforehand, where this was feeling very Papers, Please, they were kind of hitting us a little too over the head with the Nazi message of the First Order.
Right.
I think you get a lot of that in the episode Descent.
Oh yeah, straight up where they're doing like Nazi salutes, and it almost sounds like they're saying Sieg Heil.
Yeah. Like they're that close. You know, they're so close. So I don't know how much there is to say there. I think all 3 episodes, and actually No Escape Part 1, like literally picks up at the end of Descent. So really it's an ending trilogy of episodes here. So we can just talk about all of them as a whole. How did you feel about the ending of this season? Then we can kind of give a season 1 overview.
It was pretty predictable, if I'm being entirely honest. Nothing really happened that surprised me at all, unfortunately.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, you did call it. I didn't realize that like the Colossus was going to like lift off.
Yeah.
Go off into space, and that it had a hyperdrive.
That may have been like the one interesting part of the last couple of episodes, just because of what that ship looks like.
Yeah. Now, I'll tell you something that it won't happen, but I'd fucking love it if it did. If you found out that the Colossus ended up becoming the base of the rebellion, like come episode 9, if it opened up on the Colossus, no complaints from me, but I don't think we get that kind of attachment. But that'd be awesome if that ended up being like, yeah, this is base camp for the rebellion. And because you've got, I can't remember his name, the guy that runs the place. He was an ex-Imperial of some kind, admiral or something, and it'd be so cool to have him working with the rebellion or the resistance. We're still not exactly sure what it's going to be called in episode 9, but yeah, I wouldn't mind that if there was that connective tissue, but I don't know that I see that really see that coming. There was a pretty, I got to give this credit, there was a pretty awesome not space battle but starfighter battle, we'll say, in this little trilogy of episodes that I thought was downright exciting.
It was cool. It was the first time that we actually like kind of got to see the aces show off their stuff.
Really in action. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Griff Halloran ends up being the only one that gets shot at.
Yeah.
Which he looks like the most badass guy there that should never take a hit, and is the one guy who should know how TIE fighters fly.
Right.
Of course, he ends up getting shot. Whatever. So, but yeah, no, you're right about that. And Yeager gets into it and everything. It was, I thought it was cool. Then the pirates even come in and they join up. It made for a really cool battle sequence, I thought, especially for a kid's show like that. I thought it turned out very well.
I agree with that. I mean, that was enjoyable. Like I said, even it was fairly predictable how it went down.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, outside of that, I'm trying to think of like major events. I mean, of course, there is the character who she basically runs off with the First Order.
Yeah, which, I mean, we kind of saw the writing on the wall for that for a long time coming.
Yeah,
and I think it's I think it's unfortunate. Like we kind of talked about her before, and how I kind of felt like the character was a bit problematic, and I almost feel like they were setting us up to dislike this character. Yeah, because they were already planning to make her a villain.
Sure. Yeah, I mean that could get very interesting. I mean, we don't know what season 2 is going to do. Season 2 could take place 2 years later. I mean, shit, we don't know yet,
I mean, for all we know, the Colossus could end up in the unknown regions.
That would be awesome. Oh yeah, right. Because they set the coordinates and they didn't know.
They have no idea where they're going.
Yeah. Niku, like, yeah, he's like, no, I don't know where we're going. I think that character is so fucking funny. Like, I mean, I get he's somewhat problematic as well. Because it could be seen as like disrespectful, obviously to autistic.
Well, I mean, I could see that at the beginning. I do feel like he's starting to make that less of a. I mean, he's still a stereotype, but it's more like it's not a put down. I feel like they're like with the character, they're at least trying to punch up a little bit and not punch down.
Yeah. No, I really enjoy Niku. I mean, I'm shocked at how many times I find myself genuinely laughing out loud when I watch it. And it's always from him. That's just hilarious. But, yeah, I mean, I give it credit too in these, especially the last 2 episodes. They really bring like anybody that they introduced that you thought was just kind of a dumb character or like a character that was there for one little story. They really brought everybody together. At the end of this, and everybody kind of had a purpose.
Here again, that's classic Filoni.
Yes, you're right.
Storytelling style.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're totally right about that. Yeah, so I mean, predictable. I agree with you, but I enjoyed them. I mean, they weren't horrible. They weren't like holy shit, that's great Star Wars either. Right. But I mean, in fact, when I was watching them, I was kind of thinking, I'm like, this is so much better, it's not so much better. In so many ways, not in every way, but in so many ways, it's better than Droids or Ewoks, those cartoons. Nobody complains about those cartoons, and yet this Resistance gets so much shit, and it really does have its merits that are on par with Droids and Ewoks.
Well, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people even remember those.
Good point. That's a good point. But that's why we do a Star Wars podcast and they don't, goddammit.
Exactly. We're called Renegades for a reason.
Yeah. And we know our shit. But so
speaking of knowing our shit, what did you think about now that we've seen the Colossus in its entirety? What did you think?
It looked Mandalorian.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's definitely a very Mandalorian design in the same vein as like the Coronet, Duchess Satine's ship, or even Dryden Voss's ship from Star Wars' Solo Star Wars Story. Yeah. So it's very much in that vein.
No, I agree with you completely on that. And it's that can be a cool thing because those are meant to be symbols of peace, and at least according to the Clone Wars. So I would, if they want to play off of that, great. If there's some, Mandalorian history to the Colossus, dynamite, tell me it.
Really, like if they did, and God, I hope somebody from Disney or Lucasfilm is listening, because what would be really cool is if like this turned out to be like a really old Mandalorian ship. That's ancient, and like now that we've seen the whole thing, the thing is just absolutely massive. We've obviously not explored the entirety of the ship, and I almost think it would be kind of cool if they did the same sort of thing that they did with the last Stargate series, not Atlantis, but Universe, where like they have this whole ship that like to explore, and they're always discovering new things about it.
Yeah, like there's like closed off areas and everything.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. That could be very cool. You could get some really cool alien-esque storylines, which they've already played with the monkeys, basically, in some episodes of season 1 of Resistance. But yeah, I would totally dig that. The lizard monkeys, right? Whatever those are.
Yeah, the Kowakian lizard monkeys.
Exactly. Yeah. So, go ahead.
One ape.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, a lot to build off here, in my opinion, especially if we do start to get the fucking aces, and I mean, as long as we get them in some form or fashion, I'll be happy. I just was really annoyed that I wouldn't have minded some racing, and we didn't get any of that.
I mean, I accept to a certain degree in the first season of any show that we're establishing things.
Yep, you're getting your legs. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, so we've established things now. Now is hoping we're opening the opportunity to them to do more character-focused stories on something other than, the 4 or 5 main characters that we've come to know. Right.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, well, anyway, I mean, so to give like an overall season 1 overview, I mean, I thought the show ended off, I wouldn't say strong, but it ended off as good as or better than I imagined, and as good as I think it possibly could, and keep within its demographic.
For much as me dogging on its predictability, what I see, in the ending of Resistance, the first season, is a lot of possibilities, a lot of opportunities. So, I mean, that's always a good thing to end your show off for the next season.
Yeah.
If you're opening things up to the possibility of there being more, and now that they have left this planet that they were on, which that was another thing. I thought it was really cool that we got to see more of the sea life in these last 2 episodes, with like the kind of glowing sharks and stuff. I really wish we could have gotten more of that. I know we did get the one episode with Nico, dealing with the Leviathan monster or whatever it was that wanted its baby back. But I thought that was an interesting part of that planet that we could have gotten more of. But now that they're off there, it does open it up to a bunch of different. Now that they're out in space, they don't even have to stay on one planet throughout the entirety of season 2. They could be traveling to multiple different places.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, because like the wildlife in Star Wars is one of Star Wars' real strengths. I know it's a passion project of both George Lucas and Ben Burtt. Right. Both of them are very hardcore about that. And I think what's great about that, I mean, with Star Wars, George Lucas changed everything because he made this spacefaring civilization look old, look ancient, right? Everything look used. Everybody talks about that and how he did that first. The other way that he makes Star Wars so real is the concentration on wildlife. And he's always done that. I mean, to varying degrees of efficacy, he's been able to pull it off, but he does do it. And I think for Resistance to do it, that's a win. Filoni seems to have carried that torch many times for George. And obviously, I'm sure George told him, no, you got to have wildlife there, show them animals, because then they'll believe it that it's alien. Right. So, yeah, absolutely. So that's a great thing to bring up. Yeah. And, for a full-on overview, my real only complaint is just I wanted more aces. That's all I've got.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise, I don't have any complaints.
I mean, we've said this before, and I won't belabor it too much, but I mean, like we did since the beginning of this feel like we got a different show than what we were sold on initially.
Yes, and I still think that's true. I still think that stands. But yeah, we'll see what season 2 does. And I mean, season 2, it didn't just open up possible, it opened anything's possible. It seems with season 2, which is great. Yeah, I agree with you. That's an awesome thing to end on. And so, but yeah, so I think then we both stand in the same corner that the basic problem here, or the basic problem with season 1, the only problem is that there weren't any aces, and that is stemming from we got a different show than what we thought we were being sold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, fair enough. So, well, anyway, do you have anything else you want to add about Resistance going forward?
No, not much. I mean, like I said, my personal hope is they kind of do go with a sort of like a Stargate universe style show, or maybe even a little bit of Voyager, where they're trying to find their lost out in space, and they're trying to find their way, back to this quote unquote civilized part of the galaxy.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
Because the other thing that kind of hints at that is that at the end of episode 8, Leia puts out the call to help from anybody, and you think if anybody would have responded, it would have been the people on the Colossus, and they didn't show up. So it means that says to me that they're probably lost out there somewhere.
Right. Yeah. No, that's fair. The only thing is, I don't want that's cool, and I'm down for that. Just don't make it Thrawn. Don't make them find Thrawn. Because
I mean, I do think you're going to have a contingent people that are going to be pulling for that, because we did kind of get the hint of at the end of Rebels where Sabine and Ahsoka go off looking for Ezra.
Right.
And I know that that's an expectation a lot of people have, is that that much in the way that Rebels picked up Ahsoka from Clone Wars, that they're going to expect Resistance to pick up Ahsoka and these characters from Rebels. And I that would be the predictable thing to do, and I agree with you. That's not what they should do, but I don't think we should discount it as a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I don't want it, because I want Thrawn, I want more Thrawn. It's just, if this is going to stay, if the demographic is still 7-year-olds, I don't want Thrawn getting treated like a clown. Where they do some kind of Kaz is not going to outthink or trick Thrawn. He can trick Commander or Captain Pyre or whatever all he wants. You're not going to do that to Thrawn, and no kid is going to take on Thrawn. So not even Ezra, and Ezra wasn't a kid by the time.
Right. Well, he's an adult by now, by the time of Resistance, which I do think would be cool to see him. But at the same time, I do think we're going to see Kaz change quite a bit. I mean, he, by seeing his family and his planet destroyed, I think he's kind of had his call to Jesus moment where he's got to grow the fuck up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, I mean, okay, as long as they change the demographic a bit and he's more grown up, then okay. But otherwise, I mean, I look forward. I want to hear how Kaz feels about, Hosnian Prime being destroyed. We know he knows that happened now. And anyway, just don't treat Thrawn like a punk. That's the only thing I've got to say on that, because no one will believe it, and they'll hate your show. So yeah. All right. Shall we move on to any other thoughts, or we can move on?
Yeah, I think let's move on to the next topic.
All right, let's do this. We'll start to get into some of the stories here. We do have a couple of doozies, actually, a couple of questions to get into later that I'm looking forward to. But maybe you're not, or you, the audience, are not feeling so hot about Star Wars right now. Maybe you're not feeling so hot about Star Wars Resistance or whatever's going on in Star Wars land. Maybe you hated that fucking Episode 9 promo art. I don't know, but Mark Hamill might be on your side in this. And we got a story that Mark Hamill, I don't think anyone has the complete interview that Mark Hamill was engaged in. But I remember you sent this to me, Rob, and you're like, oh man, we got to talk about this. And yeah, we do. Historically, we know that Mark Hamill was not pleased with the direction that Rian Johnson was taking Luke in episode 8, but eventually he just said, well, this is the director, this is the artist, I'll do it, I'll do the job. And of course, a lot of people say that Mark Hamill put on the performance of his life in episode 8. So regardless of what Mark Hamill thinks, the critics love him. And I don't know if I agree that it was the performance of his life. I think that belongs to a certain Wing Commander game, but that's besides the point. But Mark Hamill, here's the headline from MovieWeb. And Mark Hamill still isn't happy with new Star Wars trilogy. They hornswoggled me, he said. Now, there's a full quote here, and I'll read the quote. And then, Rob, I want to get your take. How do you feel about this? All right. So here's the quote from, I'm trying to think who, they do say who he was talking to. As while he was working on a new show called Nightfall, and he was doing an interview, and he got asked about it, and he had to say, Quote, I just thought Luke's never going to see his best friend again. You look at it in a self-centered way. I said that it was a big mistake that those three people would never reunite in any way. I'll stop here for a second and say he's referencing how he never got to, like Han Solo died before his character got to do anything with Han Solo, and the three of them, him, Han, and Leia, didn't get to really get together, and now they really can't, or at least not in a physical way on set, certainly. So reading on with the quote, I guess I was wrong because nobody seems to care. I have to stipulate that I care, but it didn't really seem to affect the larger audience. Luke, Han, and Leia will never be together again, and I'll probably never get to work with Harrison again. Then the second thing was that they killed me off. I thought, oh, okay, you should push my death off to the last one. That's what I was hoping when I came back. No cameos and a run of the trilogy contract. Did I get any of those things? Because as far as I'm concerned, the end of 8 is really the end of 7 is really the beginning of 8. I got one movie. They totally hornswoggled me. And he has some more. We'll read this. Quote, I was once describing Star Wars fans, and I said they're passionate, they're opinionated, and they feel a sense of ownership because they've invested so much time in these characters and these stories, and I realized I was describing myself. It can get you into trouble because I don't control the storylines. I'm sort of like a musician. I read the music, and I try to play it to the best of my ability. That doesn't necessarily mean I like the tune, but that's not my job. So, I mean, how do you feel about this, Rom? Like, give me a breakdown here.
I mean, this is the thing I love about Mark Hamill is that he wears his heart on his sleeve.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, every time that he talks to the press and we get these sort of juicy bits from him, as they would say, he's just being sincere. And I don't think he can help but be sincere.
Right.
But at the same time, you can tell that he's had his wrist slapped a few times for doing just that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So you get a strong element here of him trying to take, sole responsibility for his own opinions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, which is interesting about the hand slapping. I want to comment on that because I read an interview. It was in the Hollywood Reporter. I read an interview with Chris Evans, who plays Captain America in the modern Marvel movieverse. And he said he's a very controversial guy on Twitter. He says a lot of shit that I think no actor would, and I don't really like Chris, but I'm just saying he says a lot of stuff that I think most actors would be afraid to say. He has very, very deep opinions. And apparently, like, he was asked, like, does Marvel give you any shit for this? Does Disney give you shit? And he says, no, Kevin Feige usually just fist bumps me when we see each other. And he's like, man, I love what you're doing on Twitter. So it seems like they can be hands off if they want, but then also Chris Evans isn't exactly like, he's not really knocking the Marvelverse, he's just talking about what's happening in real life. And Mark Hamill is commenting on Star Wars, and that might be a little too close to home.
Well, I've said this from the beginning, and when we start doing these episodes together, that I've always felt that Disney was much more hands-on with the Star Wars universe than they were with the Marvel universe.
Ah, yes.
Straight to the point where I said point blank that what's his name? And I can't remember. Bob Iger is directly got his hands involved of many elements of Star Wars and what goes on, and where to Kathleen Kennedy basically has to take a back seat. And a lot of the shit that people are pissed off at Kathleen Kennedy for, I think if we knew the truth, we'd find out isn't really coming from her and is more coming from people at Disney and specifically Bob Iger. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that's exactly what we would find out in this. I mean, I don't know whose idea it was to not have like a unified story going into the sequel trilogy,
Yeah.
Which in many ways is what Mark Hamill's complaining about here, whether implicitly or explicitly.
They did have a unified story. They just chose not to use it because it was done by George Lucas.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Where the midichlorians or where the Wills are like, the bad dudes and whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Which we've talked about in past episodes of TIE Fighter Renegades. And yeah, I mean, when you use a word like hornswoggled, I kind of wonder if you're in jest, like if you're kind of kidding. And Mark Hamill can be a little tough to tell sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know you just recently came back to Twitter, but do you follow Mark?
Yeah. I tweeted at him.
He does tend to be a little quirky on Twitter.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's just part of his personality to sort of talk that way sometimes. Maybe I could be wrong, but that's the impression I get.
No, I could see that. I mean, he is like one of the greatest voice actors of all time, and I think he likes to pull out a lot of characters out of his head. Okay. Yeah.
Let's be honest here. You don't pull off the performance that you do with the Joker in the Batman animated series and not be like a little off. Okay. A little bit weird.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. You're totally right. Yeah. So, okay. I mean, so fine. The word hornswoggle could be totally serious coming from a guy like him. Yeah, but I can feel it. And, you know, as much as, okay, I'm on board with what Disney is doing with Star Wars. I hear him. Like, and in my perfect world, would I want 3 movies with Luke Skywalker saving the day again? You bet your fucking ass. I don't care if he's 60 something, you know, like I'll take that anytime. And I think that's what most Star Wars fans wanted, is what we've always wanted. And and Mark Hamill seems to think like, hey, I thought this is what I was going to get. And at least at some point.
I'll be perfectly honest with you. What I was expecting, from the sequel trilogy is at least 1 minute with, the core 4 characters back together again. Yeah. It didn't have to be through the whole thing. But they decided to dash my hopes right off from the first movie. And that was really my biggest disappointment with The Force Awakens, is that, we'll never, like they say, you don't get to go home again. I guess that's really true. Like, they took that to heart with Star Wars and this, just decided to go through it with the steamroller and really fuck shit up.
Yeah, I get the feeling, and you let me know what you think. I mean, I get the feeling that if JJ, I'm saying I'm not the biggest fan of JJ Abrams. I'm not. Okay, I'm not saying that. But I think if he was doing episode 8, I think we would have had a very different Luke Skywalker in that movie. And I think, yeah, okay, right. So we agree on that. Oh, and I think we would have seen him in action. Like,
right. Well, I think it was before the show we were talking about is, like, I very much feel like, JJ sort of did have somewhat of an idea of where he wanted the whole thing to go. And I have to believe that's true because they announced from the beginning that he'd be directing the first episode of the sequel trilogy, but he was going to stay on as executive producer throughout the whole entire trilogy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
at some point, I guess Rian Johnson came along and he impressed the folks at Lucasfilm Disney so much that he just kind of took his ball and decided, this is mine now. I'm going to do what I want with it.
Well, that's the thing. And I think, a lot of people talk about in episode 8, how Rian Johnson was pulling a Battlestar Galactica, new BSG, not the old one, because the old one never had a problem. The new Battlestar Galactica, where where the First Order is tracking the Resistance flagship, through hyperspace. So that was a Battlestar Galactica. I think he borrowed a lot more from Battlestar Galactica than people want to admit, because the ending of episode 8, as it stands, is a movie where there are no more heroes.
Well, I was just going to say, not only did they pull a Battlestar Galactica, but they pulled a Dune too. And I'm not talking about the first novel, but I mean, he pretty much stole the script from the story from Dune Messiah.
Yeah, and I didn't think, and I know that apparently the bulk of the science fiction universe, or sci-fi fans, apparently the new Battlestar Galactica worked on them. I don't fucking understand why, but I don't like the fact that there's no heroes in Battlestar Galactica. Like, that's my number one argument against that show, is that everybody's a piece of shit. And I want somebody to kind of root for, or somebody that's there with the great morals or something like that. And that's who Luke Skywalker was. And he did deliver the great morals, the greatest moral at the end of Return of the Jedi. And I think that Rian Johnson was like, oh, you know what science fiction fans like today? They like it when there's like no heroes. Everybody's a fucking bad guy, or everybody's gray. Everybody's this and that. And I think he borrowed all the way from that. And I mean, even like at the end of the movie, when nobody comes to the rescue at Crate, it's like, okay, well, so everybody's an asshole, and that's the exact same feeling I got at the end of the 4th season of Battlestar Galactica. Okay, everybody's a fucking asshole. And that's not Star Wars, and that's not Luke Skywalker, for fuck's sake. And so, yeah. I mean, I think Rian Johnson he really did. I've been kind of careful to not say this, but he ruined everything. And I think Mark Hamill's anger is completely justified. And I think Mark Hamill had a much better idea of what that character should have done than Rian Johnson ever could.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, like, and you know, that sort of, you know, quote unquote dark storytelling style has been around for a while. And
sure. Dune's a great example. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like Dune's is like an interesting movie. I feel like people just kind of like take elements of Dune, but they never really completely replicate Dune. But that's a conversation for another time.
Yes, we will have that conversation soon. Yeah.
But yeah, because I remember back even before the prequels came out, like people were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get such a dark story, and it's gonna be." The rise of Darth Vader and the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire and all the units. And, for the, like, really, we only kind of got that at the end with Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, no, I was in your number. I was in that number of people that thought that. But also, that was acceptable because we knew we got Return of the Jedi at the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As to where this, we have no fucking idea.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, continue. Sorry, I didn't mean to, like, hijack.
No. That was my point.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was definitely one expecting like, oh, this is going to be so dark. This is going to be so cool. But you were on board with that because you knew redemption was on the table, and it was coming, and it was beautiful when it happens in Return of the Jedi. So yeah, I mean, Mark Hamill, I think he's completely justified. I think good for him for being fucking honest about it. And if anything, actually, if I was Kathleen Kennedy, I'd want Mark Hamill to go out and say this stuff, to at least like feel like the fans are somehow represented in some way by someone involved. Because right now, the fans feel like they've lost everything, in a very real way, other than what came before.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, what other thoughts do you have on what Mark had to say here? Mark Hamill had to say.
I mean, I pretty much said my piece, and like, I do think like the big takeaway here for me is that, he knows that a lot of the fans agree with the way he feels about it, but I do think there's an element of wrist slapping, and I also think that there's an element of like he's seen kind of some of the vitriol that some of his past comments have generated, and he's not at all happy with that. And I completely understand, because a lot of people have taken what he's said and run with it and just been a bunch of fucking dickbags about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's come out and said, he's like, yeah, I'm not used to like what I'm saying on Twitter mattering.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and like more power. I mean, like, he's getting the kind of attention that he should have always been getting.
Oh, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, and I'll tell you, like, I mean, I tweeted at him a couple of years ago, and I'm like, look, I'm glad that you're getting like all the success as Luke Skywalker again and everything, but you're always going to be the heart of the tiger to me. And I mean, I know it's a simple thing, but like, he gave a heart on that, when I tweeted that at him, and like, I cried, for a little bit. I'm like, holy shit, I said something to Mark Hamill about Wing Commander, and he liked it.
Did I ever tell you about the time Mark Hamill retweeted me?
No, don't tell it. Tell it.
So I was going through some of my old stuff, and I don't know if you remember the Star Wars underoos from back when we were kids. Yeah. Okay, so back in the day, like they used to have like the things you kind of like in the packaging that were just kind of like cool things, and they had like it was an honorary Jedi certificate. And you write your name on it and everything, and like I scanned it, and I put it up, and I don't remember the exact comment I made at the time, but I got a retweet from Mark Hamill, and it was just so cool.
Shit, I don't think I had Return of the Jedi underwear, and they were a little weird. I don't know if you can find pictures of these, because he got the Death Star. And I was a little kid. Okay. I didn't know. You got the Death Star like right on the front of this underwear. And it's like, wait a minute. This isn't right. This is so not right.
I fired the laser.
Signs and portents, I guess. Like my future was set. I don't know. I feel terrible. Anyway. But these were things,
Oh.
folks. This was a thing. I mean, it's not as bad as like the Voltron ones with the big sword on. Well, all right, now, so let's move on to the next story here.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I might cut that part out. So, next story. But that's great that Mark Hamill retweeted that. That's so beautiful. All right, so we got well, all right, let's do this, the story about Lucasfilm Games. There's actually not a story here. Basically, the Verge, PC Gamer, a bunch of different outlets all came out and said, holy shit, there's job, or like there, not that there was job postings, but they're just like, oh my God, Lucasfilm Games is back, which is a classic games umbrella, I guess, for Lucasfilm that before, that was even before LucasArts, right?
Yeah, I was going to say Lucasfilm Games turned into LucasArts.
Right. So people saw this and there was like, I don't know, there's a bit of a hullabaloo around it, and everybody thought, oh, wow, you know, Disney's going to start making games again, blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're going to finally get rid of EA, which we've been saying on TIE Fighter Renegades. Yeah, get the fuck rid of EA. But basically, I mean, the only thing to really say about this is that that's not true. That Lucasfilm Games has always been a part of Disney since the acquisition. They've been hiring since at least 2017. And what was its basic role under Disney?
They're just a licensing department.
Right.
So they're there to work with licensees, the people, you know, EA and other, you know, companies that are using the Star Wars license.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would have been stupid if they were going to make games like, why would you use Lucasfilm Games? Like, bring back LucasArts, bring back the brand.
I mean, like, there was a really dishonest thing that some of these outlets were doing was, you know, showing off that old Lucasfilm Games logo, which,
right,
you know, hasn't been around since like the late 80s.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time.
Yeah. So I mean, you know, I'll straight say it. It was a bullshit story to begin with, and I knew it. Yeah,
sure. I mean, it's no nostalgia play, like, because anybody who remembers Star Wars games are instantly going to think LucasArts. They're not going to think Lucasfilm Games.
Right.
So it would have been a dumb move if that was their idea.
In fact, when they were calling themselves Lucasfilm Games, they weren't even really making like serious Star Wars games. Right.
Yeah. Like
I think there was one like C-3PO game, and it was terrible.
Yeah. So, I mean, bottom line being is that if anyone was, you know, kind of duped, I mean, initially when I saw it, I was like, oh, holy shit. But then, you know, we found out different. So just to have the record straight on that, that's really the only thing I wanted to bring up as far as that goes. But, you know, honestly, like I don't know about you, but I see this in whatever feed I happen to be looking at a lot. There are so many clickbaity bullshit stuff about Star Wars. I know I get it partly due to some algorithms, but like the dishonesty in media, or not just the dishonesty, but the pure clickbait and pure bullshit that comes from a lot, like the Express. There's a whole slew of them. Another one happens to be Screen Rant, which they put out a story recently that I'll read the headline here. George Lucas intended for Star Wars to have female stormtroopers from the start. And this is from March 21st, 2019. Now, I mean, we can read into this. Basically, they're saying, I'm guessing what happened is somebody was complaining that there's female stormtroopers now. Did you ever hear that, Rob? From anyone?
No, I wouldn't be surprised.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I could see that.
At the same time, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, and there have been a lot of female stormtroopers since Disney took over. There was the ones in the Battlefront novel by, was it Alexander Freed or whatever his name is? I mean, they've been all over the place. So Phasma's not the only one, at least not under Disney's tenure. But they had a quote that Screen Rant went on here saying that this is from 1977, after Star Wars had dropped, where George Lucas said, quote, some of the stormtroopers are women, but there weren't that many women assigned to the Death Star. We can assume that there are quite a few elsewhere. So the idea that like a Phasma-esque character, sure, that's been in George Lucas's mind for a very long time. Not a surprise, in my opinion. You know, I mean, it might surprise people based upon like the Clone Wars, because all the clones were males. But I mean, there used to be a lot of mystery around stormtroopers, frankly. Like it used to be a mysterious idea that they were clones. You know,
Right.
like I remember on the back of the Power of the Force action figure for the Stormtrooper, it's like some people say that the Stormtroopers are actually clones. And
Right. Yeah, that rumor was out there before the prequels had even come out.
exactly. Well before. That was years before.
Right.
Yeah. So, I don't know what to say on all that. I haven't heard anybody complaining about this. It wouldn't surprise me either. But, I mean, what do you think this is really all about, Rob? I mean, give me a breakdown.
I mean, this is not news.
Yeah, well, that's for sure.
In every sense of the, in every way, this is not news.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically calling out, like there's other outlets that do this, but Screen Rant is particularly egregious because all they're doing is reading J.W. Rinsler's Making a Star Wars book. And they've published several stories of content from that book. Like literally, apparently all I have to be a Screen Rant columnist is to go through that book and pick out some choice bits every month or two and say, oh, we've recently uncovered this thing about Star Wars that nobody knew. Bullshit. Bullshit. And I like literally, I think I predict, just going through that book again, I could probably predict half of the Screen Rant Star Wars content, for the next, 5 years.
Yeah, and you've recommended that book many times. That people check that out.
It is like Screen Rant is such, folks. Don't go to Screen Rant. You know?
Or if you do, just make sure you have your ad blockers on. So
right. And like, if you're using, news aggregators, block Screen Rant from your feed, whatever you're doing, because everything from that site is just utter shit.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't know. I clicked on it. And I'm like, oh, are people actually complaining about this or something? I mean, which would have been nice if there was like this anti-war kind of message saying like, what the fuck are you doing? Showing women doing this, complaining like about Katy Perry doing her, this part of me, army recruitment video or something like that. Like, okay, fine. I would have heard that argument, but no, this is just clickbaity bullshit. But I think it's important for you to bring up, like, let's call out Screen Rant for the plagiarists that they are really.
Here's another upcoming headline from Screen Rant that I'm sure is coming, is that George Lucas at one point originally imagined the main cast of Star Wars, all the main cast of Star Wars being all African American.
Which is true. Yeah.
Yes. And you would know this if you read J.W. Rinsler's Making a Star Wars book.
I get right. When that happens, we're going to talk about it because it is going to happen.
Yeah, no, I guarantee it. This is going to be an article, either 6 months or a couple years from now. They're going to keep dragging this book out every couple of months and, coming up with some juicy little bit to stir shit up about,
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's going to happen. So bravo, man, on the call out. Speaking of call outs, actually, Rob just sent me the link for that tweet that Mark Hamill retweeted. I'm going to put that in the show notes for everybody to enjoy because that's awesome. And maybe if I think of it, I'll go find my tweet that Mark Hamill liked because man, that's so awesome. So we got to have our heroes, folks. Some of us do anyway. So, all right. Well, how about we move on to? Wait, did I have another story this month? I think we had another one. No, that's it. Okay, great. So why don't we get into our fan production of the month, which is actually a question. And then we'll get into, we still have our question of the month that we normally do. These are kind of our two set segments for the show. But our fan production of the month is actually stemming from something that honestly I've been feeling, and I've been feeling it for a little while, and I still want to do something about this. And I had a lot of people that wanted to help out with the matter, but I this kind of is taking it on a different angle. And the question that I posited was, is it time for fans to take Star Wars into their own hands? And this plays very well off of Mark Hamill's frustrations. And this is also an idea that's not very new. In some ways, that's what last month's fan production of the month, which was that Vader episode 1, or no, that was the month before that, that was very well done. It's not canon, but it was beautiful, and I think it was a story worth telling. Also, there have been books, like there have been people who have rewritten prequel trilogies as books that are vastly different from the movies that we got, that one could argue was perhaps better. A lot of this, basically I want to get your thoughts on this, Rob, is, really, is Star Wars kind of, I guess we won't see till episode 9, but Star Wars feels so fucked up that it would behoove fans to jump on and to just start making their own things. Make their own fan films, make their own sequel trilogies, whatever. Get together and have a rogue, separate Star Wars universe. What do you think?
The answer is yes.
Bravo,
I've been saying this for a long time, even before people started, questioning the Disney. Well, no, I wouldn't say before. Okay, so many years ago, when they quote unquote canceled the expanded universe.
Yeah.
And they came up with this concept of legends.
Right.
And people were pissed off and, they were like, bring legends back and this and that. And right from the beginning, I said, and a lot of these fans were taking a very negative attitude towards it.
Yeah.
And I've said right from the beginning that this is an opportunity for you to take the advantage of this Legends universe and make it your own. Right. Don't ask for permission. If you want those stories to continue, write them.
Yeah.
If you want your games back, make them.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I'm really I am feeling, especially with, if you listen to last month's TIE Fighter Renegades, where I feel like almost legally, Hollywood or the entertainment industry proper is so screwed. They have legally trapped themselves to where they can't even really tell great stories anymore. That's my opinion on it.
Well, we talked about this last month too, where I said one of the greatest, problems sort of in just our favorite genre fictions, like both Star Wars and Star Trek, is that there's just no real visionaries willing to take ownership of them.
Right.
And here's your opportunity. Go take ownership of it. Make it yours.
Yeah.
The one thing that I used to be really big into when I was very much younger, and it's very much a niche thing, but there was fanzines back in the day, and people would write their own Star Wars short fiction and publish it on their own.
Yeah.
And some of it was really good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, some of it I remember. Yeah. Go ahead.
Why not bring that back? If you have the internet, which is the perfect medium on which to, transmit these ideas. And the Vader fan film is a perfect example of that.
Right. Where you can do it really well.
Right. And now you don't necessarily have to have, tens of thousands of dollars to make a fan film, but you can still write a great story. And then somebody else might be able to take that story and turn it into a fan film. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of opposed to the concept of headcanon in a way, what gets laid out by the people in charge of these franchises or whatever, that's what's getting put there. But can you create your own canon, your own little universe? Well, fuck yeah, go ahead. That's totally different.
That's why I actually did think that the initial concept of calling rebranding the expanded universe to Legends was actually a really good idea, because in Legends, I'm just not talking about the specific Star Wars branding, but specifically just in legends of any kind, in mythology and history, anything goes. It doesn't have to be consistent with all the other stories that come out from that culture or from that genre or anything, Yeah.
It
can be their own thing. Legends could be a multiverse.
Yeah. And something specifically as it pertains to Luke Skywalker, I was always impressed that fan filmmakers never really touched the character. You do anything with Vader, it didn't matter. You do anything with a bunch of different characters, but nobody would touch Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or even Leia. Not really. And I think now's the time to completely change that. You know, somebody who has the acting chops, go ahead, step in, make a fun little 15-minute a pop trilogy of Luke Skywalker adventures, get him, you know, write him as the hero that he is, kicking ass as only he does, green lightsaber, the whole thing. And you know, and just give the fans what they want and make it so huge that it just, you know, the stink is so powerful from it that it just chokes everybody at Disney. You know what I mean?
Well, I think if Disney was really smart, what they would do is create some sort of open license for Star Wars Legends, and you know, sort of say, hey, we're kind of opening the doorway for you to do this, where you don't have to worry about us suing you or you know beating the crap out of you legally. And just open the doors for people to do that. But whether or not they'll do that, I highly doubt it. But if they were really if they were smart, that's what they would do.
So I mean, I think it's and I think this could go in really wild directions. I think people, they shouldn't just hold nothing sacred. I mean, have the basic framework that is Star Wars and a lot of the characters, but go nuts. Have where Padme goes to the dark side with Anakin. Have those stories. Just really, really go crazy with it, in my opinion. And I think the time is so ripe for that. If all these fans want to claim that this belongs to them, then do it. Do something about it. And I think it is time. And I've been tempted to do Star Wars audio theater for some time. I may still get into that. I want to very badly. It's always just a matter of the time. It's not for lack of talent or resources. But I think this needs to happen. And this needs to happen with a lot of franchises. I think fans can take all over.
And to a degree, it is happening. I mean, This is the whole reason I pitched to Brian the idea of having a fan production month, segment on the show. Was because I see the need for it, and I want to highlight the people who are out there doing the work.
Damn right. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Yeah, absolutely. So, so I guess the answer to the question very simply is absolutely. This needs to be happening. It needs to be happening yesterday. And in many ways it already is, like you said. And there's great work being done out there. But there's stuff that I haven't talked about yet on Fan Production of the Month that I'm just kind of waiting. There are projects that are, in the kitchen, so to speak, being cooked up. But they're not quite yet ready to be seen. But I know about them, and you're damn sure that I'm going to be talking about when they are ready to be seen. Yeah. And again, I really want, one of the best things Dark Horse did was Star Wars Infinities. I thought that was so cool. I forgot to mention it, but during the Star Wars comics segment, I had initially hoped that's what they were going to be doing with the new Vader comic. Was some sort of alternate universe sort of thing. I thought that would have, but unfortunately, they decided to go something with a little bit more, mundane. So, but I would love it if people did that. Go ahead and rewrite the stories, and keep the characters or whatever. I just think it's open for anything right now because, maybe episode 9 is going to be great. And there's certainly plenty when Clone Wars comes out, I bet the Mandalorian's going to be really good. I don't know, but I'm guessing. There's great shit happening in Star Wars, but there's still I think for most people, it still feels okay, it's not as great as it can be. Yeah. And so, do it.
Exactly. That if I have to say, anything about this is that if you're passionate about Star Wars or you have been passionate about Star Wars in the past and you're feeling the lack right now, and there's something that you have a burning desire to see in the Star Wars universe, go find common cause with other people who agree with that vision and make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree with you. I agree with you completely. So and I think that's the way to end that whole segment right there. We have plenty of fan productions to talk about in the future, but I wanted to bring that up. I think it was worth discussing and getting that out there. But while we do have the new canon, why don't we move into our question of the month, which has to do with the new canon. And this is really going to I think this might put an end to this series of questions that has been going on for a couple months now, which is best characters of certain segments of Star Wars. And in this case, we have the best character of the new canon, which we didn't do that, right? We did of the sequel trilogy, but what I'm asking is of the new canon, like that, like Dr. Aphra, those kinds of characters.
God damn it.
What do you got? Oh, no.
Yes, you did. You spoiled it.
Should have known you'd pick that. There's a lot of reasons to love Dr. Aphra. That's for damn sure.
That's okay. I've got another one I'll bring up too.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. So this is it. So these are the characters that are not in the movies, that are part of the extraneous materials, whatever those happen to be. I mean, you know, and actually I could probably guess who your other one is. It begins with a K, but I won't.
No.
No? Okay. All right. So then I am going to be.
You're so close.
Wow. Unless you're going to say it begins with a. Well, never mind. I won't guess. But all right. So I'll let you. I mean, since we already kind of let the cat out of the bag, let's do it. I mean, give me the cell on Dr. Aphra, and then you can give me your other one, and then I'll break it out.
I mean, what's not to love about, you know, a female Indiana Jones in the Star Wars universe?
Sure, that's bisexual at that, right?
Yeah, right. Well,
yeah.
I think they've recently kind of like explicitly said that, like, you know, like I think it's Sana Solo said, like, you know, Aphra has issues with men. In fact, I think she even made a comment like Luke, like, you know, brought her up, and and she's all like, what Luke had a thing for Aphra? Oh no, Aphra had, you know, men don't mix, and that's good for you that Aphra and men don't go well together.
Yeah. Because
she's a hot mess.
Yeah, I remember that, because they were kind of. It looked like they're playing around a little bit, and screaming.
Yeah, it was a little flirty.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's a good point. But please continue.
I just think the character concept was brilliant from the get-go. Even if it is, you know, like, and she's not, you know, solely an Indiana Jones ripoff. In fact, she's even a little bit more rogue than him, which is cool. Yeah. You know, and she does play dirty when she needs to, and she needs to a lot, because she always seems to find herself in some messy situations. And the whole relationship with, even though that, you know, they've kind of turned away from it recently, but the relationship with her and Tolvin has been just fantastic. Some of my favorite issues of any of the Marvel Star Wars comics.
I totally agree with you on that, on the Tolvin relationship. That was dynamite. And when they ended it, it's also kind of when the comic felt like it was going down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I think she's a great character, very dynamic, easily the most dynamic. Well, it's not arguable. I think she's the most dynamic character in the new canon. I mean, like, you never know what to expect from her, and it's not. It seems like she can do anything, but then you have no problem believing that at all. And it's she's so cool.
Well, and I mean, like, not only you know, she's so unpredictable too, which is great. And a series that sometimes have, like we've discussed with Resistance, has a problem with being a little too predictable.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. Well, how about what do you say to your second one here?
It's a close second, and I'm gonna have to go with Hera from Rebels.
Oh yeah, so I was close.
So you like I said, you were close. It was the other half of that relationship. Yeah. I mean, Hera's another one. Very easy sell to say, like, because it's such a great character, and she has been so well. Go ahead. She is the quintessential Star Wars mom.
Yes,
and I don't say that in a derogatory way whatsoever. I like, in all the best aspects of, you know, motherhood she embodies.
Yeah, I mean, I've been so impressed with how much they have put her into. She's in the movies now. She was in the Forces of Destiny. You know, I mean, like in Return of the Jedi, basically. Hera's basically running around in Return of the Jedi, even though we didn't know it.
Right.
I mean, she is all over the place. I've been really impressed by that, by the respect she's gotten within Lucasfilm itself, I guess you could say. I don't know if that's like another one of Filoni's babies, much like Ahsoka. But
yeah, well, I think that the way that they ended that series with, you know, they're having a son named Jason, of all things, really kind of indicates that, you know, that she's going to be an important character, you know, going forward.
Sure. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Yeah, I mean, give me more on Hera. Give me the breakdown.
I like I said, I really do think she's just like the quintessential, motherly character. I just have a soft spot in my heart for those kinds of characters in fiction in general. Just because I did have such, a powerfully close relationship with my own mother. And so anything that kind of brings that up really just kind of, for me personally, just tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, and she's literally so protective and so capable because one of my favorite episodes of Rebels was it Flight of the B-Wing or something like that, where didn't she fly the B-Wing?
Yes, she flew the prototype.
Yeah, and that was
she was the first person to fly it.
Right, and she handled it because it is such a weird-ass starfighter, right?
Right.
But that episode was so great. I really love that because I felt like a little kid flying in the B-Wing kind of with her. But part of the reason probably that I could access like that little kid, part of my brain was because, Hera's the ultimate mom and you knew you were safe, right?
Yeah.
And that you're so right about that. That is such a great, she's such a great character and she really is the glue of that whole team. And very much, in fact, she's in the Aphra comics a lot. Yes. Speaking of Dr. Aphra, she's very much the glue. She's a real glue of the Star Wars universe in general. I mean, she's something.
Yeah. I like I said, it's a very close second with. I mean, like you catch me on a different day, and I would actually say Hera's my first.
Yeah, sure. No, and I totally get that. Both great answers, frankly. I don't know if this is going to be much of a surprise, but like my top pick is actually a woman as well. So all three of them ended up being that. I mean, I could say Thrawn. Yeah, right. I could say Thrawn because.
But he's sort of not really new canon. I mean, he is, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
he pre-existed the new canon.
Yeah, and I will give you a bonus character as well, which is also going to be a woman, but it's going to be a bonus because it's kind of weird. So, but anyway, and no, it's not Maz Kanata. Sorry. No, my top character is actually Sabine from Rebels. Sabine Wren. I mean, I thought
I had a feeling.
Yeah, like go ahead.
I remember when Rebels was first coming out, and I remember you really resonated with that character just from the start, and I got it.
Yeah,
and I see it. And she is the kind of the consummate sort of like roguish, artist.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like her art is her rebellion. And I love that. And that's such a powerful message to have out there.
Yes.
She was also a very cool character. And that's important to me. I know it's not important to everyone, but like I was a huge Boba Fett fan back in the day and I accepted and understood that it was because he just looked so goddamn cool. And that's enough. And that's fine. And Sabine also has that though, where she looks awesome. She has that great look. In fact, I was recently at a Star Wars event and they had a Sabine cosplayer and she instantly stood out and she looked fantastic. It was really great.
Yeah. That's one thing I gotta say is like some of the people who cosplay Rebels characters are just like some of the most dedicated and meticulous cosplayers I've ever seen.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is a character that grows up and does some of the coolest shit and very powerful things. In fact, when she's taking on Canon, in the later seasons, and he's like kind of training her how to use the Darksaber and everything, or how to get ready for that. I mean, she really takes it on, and you totally believe that. Wow, she just bested, even if the Jedi's blind, she just kind of bested this Jedi and everything, and it was really cool.
Right, and she did it by like not just following the training, but making it her own.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
She started incorporating elements of her armor and gear into her sword fighting style, and she didn't win against Kanan by following his ideas about what lightsaber combat should be. She won it by being her true self.
Yeah. And I mean, maybe the greatest statement about her as well. I mean, and that's fantastic. Like that's part of what was so cool. And I remember seeing those episodes and I'm like, oh, that was great. But the other part that was really cool was Well, she never really fell for Ezra. I thought that was great because Ezra kept trying, and she's just like, "No, get out of here," and good. So, but I, the fact that she is basically now we know like traversing the galaxy with Ahsoka, which effectively means she can keep up with Ahsoka, is a pretty powerful statement in itself because Ahsoka is easily one of the most powerful characters in Star Wars. So, I mean, I really hold her in very high regard. I think she has a lot to say. There's a lot of meta talk around that character that is very powerful. And she's just cool, and I think if they ever bring her to life, I mean, this isn't important for everyone, and a character doesn't have to have this, especially a female, but I can appreciate it. I think she'd be sexy when they bring her into live action, and she's more, like in more, especially say with like post Return of the Jedi, right? And wasn't she like Governor of Lothal at the end of that or something?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they said that explicitly, but she was definitely like part about, establishing, the new, government there. Sure. Because they didn't explicitly say that Lothal was part of the New Republic either, but they were very much thriving on their own. Yeah,
she's like a badass Mon Mothma. I mean, great. I mean, so just adds more to the character. I think she's tremendous.
I like a lot of her character personally resonates with me too. Just as and so much that she incorporates, her artistry into everything that she does.
Right.
And it's interesting you bring up the Ezra thing too. I almost wonder if she's not just not interested in Ezra, but just not interested in like those kinds of relationships at all.
Yeah, which hey, maybe Ahsoka and and Sabine. I mean, okay.
Or maybe like, maybe she's asexual, who knows?
That wouldn't be bad either. Honestly, that wouldn't be bad either. That'd be actually, I mean, Star Wars has been doing a great job of representing various, I guess I'll use the term minority groups. I mean, because it's a minority of ideology, of sexual expression, of, race, so many things. Right. I would love that if they did that.
Yeah, so. I kind of feel that it just fits with her character and what we've seen so far. That's just my personal. I might be projecting a little bit there, but
sure. No, fair enough. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, we'll see what, and this is a character that clearly there are things in mind of what to do with her. So I can't wait to see how she's going to continue to grow. But yeah, probably. I mean, I definitely say that's my favorite character of the new canon. Now we'll give you. Yeah. Now, I will give you my bonus, but my bonus, like I said, is a little weird. So I'm going to say the name, but then I don't mean the name. So the name is Jyn Erso. But.
I know you're going with this. Jyn
Erso from the first fucking Rogue One trailer.
Right.
Jyn Erso.
Yes.
Was going to be the best Star Wars character ever.
the I Rebel.
Yes.
Jyn Erso.
Yeah, the one that's like staring down a TIE fighter with her blaster. That Jyn Erso.
Right. Yes, exactly. The one that, and like so many people bitched about that line, and I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? That was awesome. This could be, like you said, this could be the greatest Star Wars character ever.
Yeah, she was on target for that. And fuck, like they ruined it. And we know they changed it. She was not. Yeah. They changed it.
The guy who changed it is admitted not a Star Wars fan and proud of the fact.
Right. Yeah. So fuck that. Like, oh man. So anyway, that would have been that would have been my secondary pick. Would have been Jyn Erso if we got the actual. I mean, granted, she would have been in a movie, so she couldn't have been a pick for the new canon. But I'm just going to put that one out there because I don't know where else to fit it.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that someday, somewhere down the line, someone much like Rinsler did, does the behind the scenes stories of the original Rogue One. Yeah, that'd be so great to get that story to find out what was. I mean, like even if somebody just leaked the original script.
Yep.
Oh God, that would be great.
Yeah, and then we can all do an audio theater of it. And
exactly.
And bring that line back to life, goddammit, because it was so great. I mean, like they had that in mind for like didn't they even let you put that I Rebel thing on on your Facebook profile?
Yes, and I have a T-shirt that has like I Rebel written on it like 5 or 6 times down the front of it.
This was supposed to be a big deal. How did that not end up in the movie?
Yeah, it was part of the marketing, and they cut it out of the movie. What the fuck?
Oh, it's such bullshit. So, there's my.
And if folks don't misunderstand, like Brian and I both enjoyed Rogue One. We don't hate the movie. It was actually
the new movies.
Exactly. It's one of the if not the best of the Disney movies so far.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it could have been so much more.
Yeah, and we knew, and we know, again, folks, like we're not. You can look this up. I mean, Ben Mendelsohn even said that. Yeah, there's like 4 different takes of this movie, and
yeah.
I mean,
God, it'd be great if, like, here again, somewhere down the line, Rogue One got the Blade Runner treatment.
Oh yeah,
they released a Blu-ray set of 5 discs with a different version on each disc.
Yeah, but that's going to get nuts because people are going to say this is the real one. Like they're going to say, the one with the badass Jyn Erso is the one they're going to say is the real one, and Disney's going to be in trouble.
Oh, okay, maybe that's a problem for Disney, but I don't have a problem with that. That's good for us.
Fuck yeah! Oh man, no, So anyway, so there's my bonus for you, folks. But. Women across the board, and it's a real credit to. I will give Disney this much credit. Like they have significantly increased the amount of canon, full canon, even just in the movies, canon female characters. Because for a long time, folks, all we had was Princess Leia. That's why we were so excited about Mara Jade. Because we just wanted more women in Star Wars, for fuck's sake. And Disney has been doing a good job about that.
Yeah.
So I'll give.
Well, and to their credit, they have, made the Star Wars fandom a more inviting place for women too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's great.
Absolutely.
That's something we didn't have when we were kids as much. Yeah. I did have friends that were, fans of Star Wars, but, they were the exception and not the rule. And it definitely seems like that's turning around now. You're just as likely to find, female Star Wars fans as you are to find male, and fantastic. That's one thing that Disney has done right with the franchise.
Yeah, it's not a boys' club anymore at all.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So I agree with that.
And I don't think it was ever intended to be, to begin with.
No, I mean, regardless of where the comment came from, George Lucas seemed to be very clear that women were a major part of the galaxy, and they did everything that men could do.
Right.
So
yeah,
sure.
Well, I mean, like you can go back to interviews with Carrie Fisher from like the 70s and 80s, and there was a really great interview where she just lays it out and says, the part that really resonates with me about Princess Leia is that she's not a victim.
Yeah,
she's saying this shit decades before this becomes like a rallying cry for many feminists today.
Yeah. And no, absolutely.
She was way ahead of her time.
Yeah, in fact, actually, too, and we were talking earlier about the Padme comic book, the Age of Republic Padme comic book. In the essay at the end of that, they brought up a quote from a featurette or whatever, where Natalie Portman was talking about, and I think it might have been during episode, I don't know, one of the prequel movies anyway. And she said she just loves the way that George Lucas creates women characters, because they can have the beauty and the big dresses, all the stuff, but they are wildly powerful and they are wildly important, and she's like, that's the only reason I was willing to do this, was because I knew he was going to treat women right, or at least George Lucas would. Whatever happened at other points of production, I mean, is another question. But
yeah, well, I mean, and that is unfortunate. I mean, that both Natalie Portman and George Lucas, got flack for decisions that I think today a lot of people now support. I think there's a lot more support for the prequel characters and just for the story overall than there was when it came out. And I think that's good. A lot of people grew up with those movies, and anybody who says that the prequels aren't Star Wars, get the fuck out.
Yeah, go shit yourself. I mean, that's outrageous.
The people who grew up with those movies have just as much claim to the Star Wars universe that the people who, like me, who grew up with the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay. You're not a quote unquote purist if you only like the original trilogy, and that's fine if you only like the original trilogy. But if you have to do that at the expense of everything else and put down everything else, then like I said, go shit you. Like you said, Brian, go shit yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and look, people can complain about episode 2 all they want, but the Clone Wars is great. So, like that cartoon was phenomenal. So, all right, sure. Maybe there's bad elements to some of this stuff, but that doesn't mean that there isn't amazing Star Wars content that didn't crop out of that.
And everything that's come out of it afterwards has only made it that much more real and powerful. I will be the first to admit that I did not love the prequel movies when they first came out.
Mm-hmm.
But after I watched the Clone Wars, and my biggest issue, after Revenge of the Sith was that I still didn't understand the transformation of Anakin Skywalker to Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what did that for me? Clone Wars and Rebels.
Right. Yeah, especially Rebels too. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that moment when Vader, has his face mask slashed open by Ahsoka, and you can hear both Matt Lanter's and James Earl Jones' voice say to Ahsoka, "Now you will die." I mean, that just that clicked a thing in my brain. They're like, "Oh, I get it now. They really are the same person."
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally agree. And also, I mean, even some of, again, that book that I mentioned, Queen Shadow, that just came out this month, that, I mean, pretty much kisses right into episode 2. And there's a lot of reference to things in the Clone Wars because Corvus and some of these other characters are in it and everything. But you get a real picture of Padme becoming a senator, what that meant to her, how hard it was for her. And so you go in and you watch episode 2 and suddenly that's a whole new movie because you saw what she had to get through to, even be listened to like she is in Attack of the Clones. Right.
That's great. And that, that makes me really excited to read the novel because, I think a lot of people had the assumption that, Padme had become a senator just, through some sort of, weird nepotism because she was the queen.
Right.
No, she more than likely had to earn it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you get that whole story. You get how she became the senator. I mean, you get the whole thing. It's really worthwhile. So yeah, all of this is allowing for, just, again, it's that richness and, they're just, the more we accept Star Wars as something more than just the movies, the better we all are because we have incredible stories to all put together into this cohesive whole. And then also when we understand all those, we can go and make our own and they can be fucking awesome too. So anyway, I think that's a great note to end on with this, but I will ask the question. This is the question we ask, pretty much every episode of TIE Fighter Renegades. So in March, at the end of March, 2019, pre-celebration, Rob, how do you feel about Star Wars right now?
Yeah, I'm I was a little disappointed by Resistance. I've made, make no qualms about that, but we do have Celebration coming up and I am expecting good things. Yeah.
Same here. There's so much announced, that poster honestly gave me, no pun intended, a new hope. Because I liked a lot of what I saw and I'm very comforted by the Knights of Ren thing. And as far as that, I know we have more Clone Wars coming from Filoni. We have, Mandalorian. I mean, there's a lot coming up, and that Queen Shadow book was so helpful. Okay, good.
Well, I'm hoping we're going to get some new book announcements too at Celebration.
Yeah. I mean, there's some other great. Go ahead.
I'll be first to say I am actually looking forward more so to everything outside of Episode 9. Than I am Episode 9 itself. I mean, I'm looking forward to Episode 9. I want to see it. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not expecting anything earth-shattering from it at this point.
Yeah. But I think it doesn't have to be because there's so much going on outside.
Right.
So, and the TV series are going to be nuts. I can't wait for that. I mean, I get to see Carl Weathers and fucking Star Wars. I'm feeling pretty good.
Get to see Dave Filoni directing live action, which will be fucking brilliant.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I can't wait to see that name. I'm going to clap when that name comes up. So anyway, so feeling pretty good. I mean, there's some things where I'm not so excited. Yeah, but upbeat. So, all right. Well, we'll wrap this one up. Thanks again, as always, Rob. Always a great time. And, well, we'll be back next month. Of course, TIE Fighter Renegades only on Zomia ONE, folks. Make sure you go to ZomiaOne.com to get your hookup for that and join the Zomia ONE Underground, because you never know, at some point, there might be TIE Fighter Renegades content on there that might be exclusive to that. And that could be very exciting. So anyway, we'll wrap this one up, and we will see all of you on the other side.
Woo! Can you get enough of the Man of Tomorrow? I didn't think so. Well, now you're going to get even more, along with some of the hottest hosts and podcasts around, because now Sovryn Tech has become an entire network. Woo! Zomia ONE, the most rebellious podcast network in the galaxy, with bleeding-edge shows covering science, technology, and even pop culture. Podcasts like Sovryn Trek, bringing you the latest and greatest in everything Star Trek. TIE Fighter Renegades, a Star Wars podcast, where the Man of Tomorrow and Robin Freebeard talk Star Wars like no other show out there. The Hard and Fast podcast, where metal is king and the latest album reviews and interviews with the greatest acts in hard rock and heavy metal happen. And you can even become a member of the Zomia ONE Underground and get access to thousands of hours of exclusive content and shows. And this isn't Patreon, baby. Oh no, this is all happening on the premier podcast platform, Podbean. So head over to ZomiaOne.com, that's ZomiaOne.com, and become a part of the future with Zomia ONE, and become a member of the Zomia ONE Underground. And while you're at it, download the Podbean app on iOS and Android. Be the future. ZomiaOne.com.